Hello once again. Welcome to the GPP Chin Music Podcast. I'm Big Italy 42. He is Josh Eberson at BChad50. And of course, we're talking about all your GPP action for tonight's awesome slate. A lot of pitchers that are expensive that we like, some mid-range guys, even some cheap guys we're considering here. So it's going to be a fun night for tournaments. And I'm really excited to get it going. And obviously, we're talking FanDuel and DraftKings here. And, we go ahead and get things started, I guess, because there's a lot of pitchers especially for us to talk about.
Yeah, let's get this thing on the road.
All right, we're talking first Matt Harvey, $10,600 on DraftKings, $10,700 on FanDuel. Not much analysis necessary. He's got the best stuff of anybody out there. If you can afford him, get him. He's going to be a popular play, though, so I'm not saying don't play him in GPPs, but, on a one-pitcher site like FanDuel, you may want to go and swerve yourself a little bit off of Matt Harvey because he is going to be a pretty popular play.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement there. I think I like him more on DraftKings, where you can kind of get your differentiation from the pack with either your second pitcher or your lineup. On FanDuel, he's just going to be so heavily owned. Yes, the upside's certainly there. He's going to set your floor fairly high. If you're just looking to cash, Matt Harvey's a fine play. If you're looking to really go for the gold and try and win your GPPs, I'm going to pivot off of him. My favorite option to pivot off to is going to be James Shields. I love the matchup at home against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's been much better against righties than they were early in the season, but Shields' huge strikeout upside, up in the top two in strikeout rate, same in swinging strike rate. It's legit. He's had home run issues. Those should subside at some point. He's not going to continue to give up a home run on 25% of the balls put in the air against him. The price point, similar enough to Harvey, $1,400 on FanDuel, only $800 cheaper on DraftKings, that I think his ownership is going to be, in our case, positively affected by it. Meaning that he's not going to be high owned because people are just going to spend that extra money and grab Harvey just for that safety net. But lowest total on the board tonight, 6-run total. Shields against Francisco Liriano. I think the fact that he's not an overwhelming betting favorite is going to help drive his ownership down as well. But just a total team run over-under total of 3 for the Pirates tonight. Shields is a favorite at home, so you get the strikeout upside, you get the low ownership, you get everything that you really want in a pitcher from Shields, and that's what makes him my favorite GPP play.
Yeah, so a lot of factors going in your favor there with James Shields, and not a lot of risk, like you said. I mean, if he keeps that ball in the park, which should be a lot easier in San Diego, then I think he's got a nice high ceiling there. I'll be playing quite a bit of him. My favorite here to go down to, $2,500 less than Matt Harvey on DraftKings, and on FanDuel he is $2,100 less. That's Trevor Bauer. You look at what Trevor Bauer's been doing recently. Last 3 games, 7 1/3, 7 1/3, 7 2/3. 4 hits, 1 earned, 4 hits, 1 earned, 5 hits, 1 earned. The only thing that's changed much is the strikeouts, 10, 7, and 4. He's doing a great job. They're not worried about him pitching deep into games, and his pitch count had 107, 112, and 110 his last 3. So when he's getting it done, they're letting him pitch through. And, he's got a big strikeout rate now, 23.6%. We've seen his upside, obviously. He's got 2 games of double-digit strikeouts already. Cleveland striking out 22.6% of the time against righties. It's in Safeco Field. You're really only worried about Nelson Cruz. I mean, we saw what Chris Archer did to them the other day. And obviously Chris Archer a better pitcher than Trevor Bauer. But Trevor Bauer, if we're talking just pure talent, he's not too far off from Chris Archer. So if he's got those strikeout pitches working, he can miss a lot of bats tonight.
Yeah, I really like the call on Trevor Bauer. Big strikeout upside, great stuff. And as you said, they let him pitch deep into games. I mean, he is a biomechanics machine, as big on the long toss, big on just throwing. And the Indians let him do it, and they allow his pitch counts to run up. And I like the fact that he has some freedoms that maybe some other pitchers aren't awarded. You don't have to worry about him getting that quick hook, right at 100 pitches. They're going to let him throw beyond that. So I like his ceiling quite a bit. Guy that you and I both like. I think he's going to be the popular pivot off of Harvey. Cole Hamels, great matchup with Colorado at home. Spun a gem against them at Coors recently. So Hamels has already tied this lineup up once, which I think is going to drive his ownership up. He's been locked in lately. Rockies are not good against left-handed pitchers, but all those factors I think are going to put his ownership in pretty close to that Harvey realm in GPPs. I think a lot of people are going to look at Hamels as a guy to spin off to, and it might end up resulting in pretty similar ownership to Harvey when it's all said and done. So, like Hamels, but don't necessarily think you're going to get low ownership with him. The low ownership guy that I'd like to talk about, that's my favorite GPP dark horse today, my favorite SP2 on DK, my favorite option if I'm going to shoot the moon and really look to save salary, maybe lower my floor substantially and move off of Shields. I'm going to go down to $7,300 Ruby De La Rosa, $7,300 on FanDuel, less than that on DraftKings, only $6,400 on DraftKings. De La Rosa gets a very right-handed heavy Brewers lineup, has his problems against lefties, but the only lefty in that lineup that really poses him any threat at all is Adam Lind. If Lind is the best lefty you have to worry about, it's not exactly the type of lineup that's going to scare the hell out of me and get me off of De La Rosa. He's been nails against right-handed batters this year. Huge strikeout rate, big swinging strike rate. Really like him. He's an underdog. The Brewers have a 4-run total, and it's at Miller Park. All things that are going to drive his ownership down to probably that 0 to 10% ownership rate that you're looking for. So he's going to be low-owned, priced right, high strikeout upside, and allows you to do a lot with your hitters.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to throw you a curveball here, a guy that I hadn't mentioned to you earlier that I think is an interesting GPP option. I'll save him for this one. Hector Santiago. Now, before you tell me I'm crazy, got a couple things here for you. Yes, Detroit does hit lefties very well, but they do strike out the fourth most of any team against left-handed pitchers at 23.7%. Obviously, 339 Team WOBA is one of the highest in the league against lefties, so there's certainly that. But we've seen this with the Tigers before. They have games where they just completely disappear, and you get nobodies like John Danks or some random guy like a Hector Santiago, who is a fine pitcher, not a great pitcher. He's about an average pitcher, but I mean, 21.6% strikeout rate. You're a little bit concerned about the walk rate of 9.5 because the Tigers do walk over 11% of the time against lefties. And he's a fly ball pitcher, but also in Angel Stadium, I think there'll be a lot of Detroit stacks against lefties, and rightfully so because he's not a great lefty. But you know, if they're just not on today, and it's one of those games where they disappear, you got a guy at $6,900 on DraftKings and $77 on FanDuel. It's gonna be easily less than 2% owned.
Yep, and you're looking for that differentiation. As long as you've got the statistical backing, which you pointed to, roll with it. I mean, we aren't the types to just say, you know, be contrarian for the sake of being contrarian. There's definitely statistical reasoning for backing him. I'm not going to be on the Santiago train, but again, the fact that I'm scared off of him is just what you're looking for in this type of game is that low ownership where you have the rationale to do it, but there are reasons to fade him as well. Volatility, man, you got to embrace it in GPPs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not encouraging him if you've got 1, 2, even 4 or 5 GPP entries, but if you're running 10, 20 lineups, which I will be, I'm going to get him in 1 or 2 there. Probably just 1, but, you know, I mean, he's got the upside, and really at that price and that low ownership, he gets you 12 to 14 points on FanDuel, and you're thrilled with that.
Yep.
All right, we'll talk about a couple cheap guys here. You already mentioned your favorite cheap guy. A couple guys on both sides of the White Sox-Houston game that are interesting. You've got Lance McCullers has pitched well in both of his starts so far. 10 2/3 total, just 9 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, 11 strikeouts. Obviously against the White Sox, who are about an average offense in this spot. So you don't love that, but $5,100 on DraftKings makes him an interesting play. And then cheapest guy on DraftKings, $4,100 Stephen Wright. You don't have a lot of faith in him, obviously. Knuckleballer. Texas starting to hit the ball, but he's been efficient his last couple games. Got a win against the Angels last time out. If this guy gets you a quality start at 4.1K, I mean, you could set you really far apart in tournaments, and you can do a lot with a cheap guy like this as one of your starting pitchers on DraftKings.
Yeah, and the thing about a knuckleballer is, and I mean, we've seen it over the years, whether it's Tim Wakefield or R.A. Dickey, when that knuckleball's dancing, it doesn't matter how hot a lineup is. If that ball is moving right, it's tough to tie up. These guys get to go deep into games when they're cruising. So it really comes back to being able to embrace that volatility in GPPs. If you're willing to roll the dice, and I'll borrow from Justin here. If you're running out one lineup, you don't want to run out a Stephen Wright lineup. If you're running 10, 15, 20 different lineups, grab that $4,100 SP2 and go ham loading up your lineup with all the boppers you want. Put together the all-star team if you'd like to, and just and hope that you get that quality start from right, and then watch your big bats carry you to the top of the lineup.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody else I really am too interested in playing. Most of the other guys I'd like to pick on. I guess if for some reason he finds his stuff all of a sudden, you could look at Steven Strasburg, but at almost 9K, he's going to be very low owned due to the fact that he's been so awful. I won't be doing it. I look at his peripheral statistics, and they tell me that this isn't the guy that's getting unlucky. This is a guy that is not good right now. So I won't be touching him, but if you want to chase the elite upside he once had, I wouldn't blame you for it either.
Yeah, I'll give you another name, and he's kind of the anti Steven Strasburg. Looking at his peripheral stats, I think he has been unlucky. Anibal Sanchez is $8,400 on DraftKings, and he is, let me get his FanDuel price right here. We got $8,200 on FanDuel. Missing bats, nice swinging strike rate. The long balls really hurt him. High BAPIP, struggles with stranding base runners, but track record of success, and he's facing an Angels lineup that's not very good against right-handed pitchers. So he's a guy that I think has strikeout upside, has pitch deep into the game upside, like really has everything that you're looking for, and has the potential to get some run support if the Tigers are clicking, and it isn't one of those fail to show up against John Danks sort of nights. You got that chance for the run support and to get you the W as well. And I think Sanchez's struggles, the fact that they've been so highly publicized on MLB Network and ESPN, I think it's going to turn some guys away and turn some gamers away and really sour them on using him. So you'll get that low ownership, you'll get some upside, and he's priced pretty similarly to a number of guys that we do like Bauer and whatnot, which is also going to keep that low ownership.
Yeah, great point there. So I think that's going to wrap things up for starting pitcher. Now we're going to get into all the positions, and starting with catcher. There are some deep positions today. I don't think the catcher is one of them. You're looking at your top options. Evan Gattis, you and I agree, top option. Going to be kind of hard to fit him in your cash games with elite arms, so he may make for a better GPP play than cash play due to all those things. But he's got double dong upside. After a really slow start to the season, he's really starting to get it going recently. Up to 10 home runs and 30 RBIs. And he's really showing a lot of power, so certainly going to look that way. If you're looking to just chase some more home runs, Stephen Vogt against Chris Capuano. Really anyone against Capuano, if you'd like. As you're looking for cheaper guys, I don't love a whole lot of these cheap guys. A good tournament option would be Mike Zunino. He took Corey Kluber deep last night. We know Trevor Bauer, if his stuff's not working, he's wild. If he walks a couple guys, I love him in GPPs, but with Mike Zunino, you're not chasing a 3-hit game. You're chasing, he gets a hold of one, he hits a home run, because the dude strikes out a ton, almost 40%. But he's got power. He's got 7 home runs on the season. So I think at 3,300, targeting a guy that will be decently owned in GPPs isn't a bad way to go.
Yeah, a couple cheap-ish catchers that I like. One a catcher on both sites is Derek Norris, 2,700 on FanDuel, 3,200 on DraftKings. Really is excellent against left-handed pitching. Has a patient eye, so he's willing to work some walks. We know Francisco Liriano is willing to give up walks. Also has above-average power. Can hit for a little bit of thump. Don't love the fact that he's at Petco Park tonight, but if Liriano misses in the zone, Derek Norris can put a hurting on it. And I think the fact that he can get on base gives him a decent floor. But if he's on base in front of these thumpers and he usually hits second, gives him a bit of a ceiling too, because he's got that chance to score multiple runs in a game while reaching base multiple times. So I like Norris quite a bit. On DraftKings, you can use Willian Rosario at catcher still. We've already talked about liking Cole Hamels a lot, and the fact that we expect him to be high owned. That means grabbing a guy like Rosario who has power to reach the seats. If he does take Cole Hamels deep, you expect him to do it with a low ownership rate because he is facing a popular pitcher tonight. So I'll grab some Rosario at Citizens Bank Park and hope that he puts a charge into one.
Yeah, I absolutely like that call. And like you said, taking advantage of these opportunities, like a guy who still has eligibility like that, is going to be key for you, and improving your DFS game for sure. Hanley Ramirez is another good example of that. Hasn't played shortstop, seemingly forever, and he still has that eligibility on DraftKings as well. So, you got anybody else at catcher? Because that's about it for me.
No, beyond that, I'm looking at lineup spots and I'm looking at punting if you're not going to use one of those guys.
I'm with you there. Moving on to first base, Mr. Prince Fielder. Gotta love Prince Fielder right now. He's hot. He's 5,500. I think that price tag will definitely keep his ownership low in tournaments tonight, especially on DraftKings. He's got a fair price on FanDuel. I think he'll actually have a decent amount of ownership there, where he's sitting at $4,500. But he's going to be one of my favorite options for tonight. Obviously, Miguel Cabrera, he's got that big-time upside in this matchup. $4,900 on FanDuel, $4,900 on DraftKings. You can't go wrong with Miggy, one of the best hitters in the game still.
Yeah, I agree. And the nice thing about Miggy is that he's third base eligible on DraftKings as well, so you can slot him there if you'd like. I like Jose Abreu at $5,200 on DraftKings, and still underpriced at $3,600 on FanDuel. He's at Minute Maid Park, so you got favorable park factors. He's facing a rookie pitcher who's making only his third big league start in Lance McCullers. McCullers has really good stuff, don't get me wrong, but a little bit erratic, struggles with his control at times, and that could mean missing out of the zone, or it could also mean leaving a cookie in the middle of the plate for Jose Abreu. And we know that Jose Abreu, maybe he likes cookies quite a bit. I don't know if he's a Chips Ahoy or an Oreo guy, but we know that when he gets
Oreo.
Yeah, when he gets one, we know that he can really gobble it up and put it in the seats. So I like Jose Abreu quite a bit, especially at FanDuel, where he is just $3,600. Lucas Duda, a guy that we both really like, has reached the seats multiple times in games a couple of times recently. So we got some power there. We've got a decent matchup with Dan Herron, who just isn't very good. I mean, he's pitching better this year, obviously. We still like to pick on him, though. So I'm going to get some shares of Duda. Chris Davis, fair price point on both sites. He is the epitome of what it means to be a GPP player. You are going all or nothing with Chris Davis. It's multiple strikeouts or hitting a home run. Sometimes it's multiple strikeouts and hitting a home run. You get that home run, you don't care how many times he strikes out after that. He pays himself off at that point. On DraftKings, $4,000 Joey Votto, always in play. Strasburg just isn't right at this point. So grabbing some Votto at home is not a bad move at all. And guy that I like, first base eligible and outfield eligible on DraftKings, just first base eligible on FanDuel. Chris Carter, dropped in the lineup, going to be low owned as a result. A lot of guys priced around him that are being perfectly honest, better players than he is. But when you've got multi-home run upside like Carter does, and you're getting a young pitcher like Carlos Rodon, a rookie who's only made a few starts in the big leagues, I like the upside that he presents in GPPs.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about DFS. You don't care how good this guy is tomorrow, next week, next month, yesterday. You just need him tonight. If he has one big game, that's all you're worried about. So I like Chris Carter for those reasons also. Second base, loaded. Like we were saying on earlier podcasts, take your pick with these top guys. You get Dozier against the lefty, Altuve against the lefty, Jason Kipnis against a pitcher. Dustin Pedroia is hot right now. I know you really like a $4,100 guy here on DraftKings. So why don't you throw that guy out there into the mix as well?
Colton Wong, I mean, I think with so many of the top options getting their favorable platoon split, your Kipnis against a righty, your Dozier against a lefty, as you said, Altuve against a lefty, Dustin Pedroia on a bit of a heater right now in his last few games. I think you're going to see his ownership high. Colton Wong, all he's done is move to the leadoff spot, continue to rake, flash some power, has a little bit of speed, gets to hit right in front of line drive machine Matt Carpenter. So you know if Wong's on, the upside for a run scored is very high because he's got talent immediately behind him. $4,000, there's a guy that I like on DraftKings, fairly priced at $3,300 on FanDuel. Ian Kinsler, great GPP play if you're going to stack or you're going to mini stack the Tigers against Hector Santiago. I don't like him as much as a one-off. I do think that he has that run scored and RBI potential, likely hitting second behind Rajai Davis, so he should have a duck on the pound in front of him, has Miguel Cabrera hitting directly behind him, but just doesn't have the power upside of a guy like Dozier or Kipnis, doesn't have the stolen base upside of a guy like Altuve, but if you're going to grab him in stacks or mini stacks, maybe hook him with Rajai Davis, maybe hook him with Miguel Cabrera. That's a very viable GPP move in my estimation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you there, and like we said, there's a lot of options at second base, so you can definitely get many of these guys in your lineup and feel pretty good about it as well. As we move on over here to third base, there's a few options. I know one in particular you want to talk about there. and he's against a popular pitcher. So who's your dark horse candidate here at third base?
Well, he's $3,200 on FanDuel. He is fairly priced at $4,000 on DraftKings, and by fairly priced, I mean slightly underpriced. Nolan Arenado really hits left-handed pitching very hard. He's at a home run-friendly venue at Citizens Bank Park, and he's not just a product of Coors Field. He hits lefties pretty well on the road as well. I really like Arenado a lot tonight in GPPs. Again, it gets back to the fact that Hamill's going to be fairly high-owned, which means you're not going to be seeing these Rockies batters used against him on these rosters where Hamill's is being owned, making Arenado an even more appealing pick than he already would be against a left-handed pitcher with his power and a good ballpark.
Yeah, I mean, when you can get a guy like that, we mentioned it earlier, against a popular pitcher, that doubles your upside in tournaments, really, if not even more. So that's a great way to go. And other options at third base, Miguel Cabrera, DraftKings, we already mentioned him. He has a dual eligibility there. You already mentioned Chris Davis, like him. I like Jimmy Paredes a lot at $4,300 on DraftKings there. Todd Frazier, we mentioned. You want to get that double dong type of upside. Strasburg's been awful. Frazier's great at home, especially. And we'll throw out Trevor Plouffe, who crushes lefties just like his buddy Brian Dozier, his teammate. And that's a nice little 1-2 stack where you get yourself a leadoff hitter. Should be the 3 or 4 hitter, and Plouffe probably the cleanup hitter there. And against the lefty and Burley, who, I mean, he's the ultimate contact pitcher now. He's not fooling anyone. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. He's not striking anyone out. So these guys putting the ball in play, you got to like attacking him against the lefty. And I don't remember what the exact number was, but it's something like the last 9 games against lefties, the Twins are averaging almost 9 runs a game. So, yeah, get yourself some Twins exposure.
It sounds like they've been playing on the moon if they're averaging 9 runs a game against lefties. Seriously. But I'll throw out another Oriole. Manny Machado got tossed from last night's game after melting down on a strikeout. But gets Nate Carnes. He hits right-handed pitching better than left-handed pitching thus far in his big league career. Carnes, not exactly an overpowering right-handed pitcher either. At Camden Yards, $4,300 on DraftKings. $3,300 on FanDuel. I will get some exposure to him today. Matt Carpenter already alluded to liking him today. Hitting behind Colton Wong, I think hooking the two of them together is something that makes some sense with some of your GPP rosters. Adrian Beltre, I mean, we're talking about how hot the Texas Rangers offense is. You got their cleanup hitter facing a knuckleballer tonight. $3,000 on FanDuel. And let me pull up the price tag here on DraftKings, $4,600 on there, so a little bit pricier than I like there, but on FanDuel, very viable option at just $3,000. If that knuckleball's not dancing, makes for basically a cookie again. I mean, maybe I need an Oreo at this point with all this cookie talk, but Adrian Beltre gets Stephen Wright tonight. I do like the matchup if that knuckleball's not dancing, at Texas too. Yeah,
you got to like that, and Texas seems to be that team that no one ever plays still. Always so flying under the radar, but I mean, these are good hitters. They were just struggling early in the season, so I think that's viable. They're going to keep it going. And as we look at shortstop, if you're playing on DraftKings, Hanley Ramirez, $4,700. You obviously can't play him on FanDuel at shortstop because he isn't a shortstop. But your other options, Jose Reyes, gotta like him. He's hit a double in every game since he's been back. He's got a fair price tag across the board. Johnny Peralta against Bolsinger. He's actually leading qualified shortstops in batting average, over 300. So quietly having a really nice season along with a lot of these other St. Louis bats. So I like him a lot too.
Yeah, I'm going to give a hat tip to my boy Marcus Semien, $2,900 on FanDuel, cheap on DraftKings as well at just $3,800. Gets a lefty and and not a good one, in Chris Capuano. Capuano just struggling to keep his rotation spot, maybe keep his job with the New York Yankees at this point as they get healthier. Ian Desmond, you don't love the fact that he's right-handed against Desclafini. Desclafini's been pretty good against right-handed batters, but if Desmond's been kind of locked in lately, and if he gets on, we know there's a guy just a few spots behind him in the order that can really put put a hurting on some baseballs, and Bryce Harper. So Desmond, not a bad play if you want to pay up. Troy Tulowitzki, again, I'm going to go back to a GPP option because of the low ownership that you expect these Rockies hitters to have against Cole Hamels. Tulo struggling out of the gate, but as far as we know, he's healthy. He's not dealing with any health issues. Eventually, he's going to turn it around, and I want to be the guy that owns him in a GPP when he does. Hamels, tough assignment, but he does hit left-handed pitching well at home or on the road, and he's at a homer-friendly venue at Citizens Bank Park in Philadelphia. So I do like some Troy Tulowitzki. Beyond that, I'm probably not going to be spending much on shortstop. Maybe Brandon Crawford gets some love. As I said on the DraftKings Daily Trot, Crawford, great piece on Fangraphs about him that has some GIFs up that looked at his development as a hitter, some of the mechanical changes he's made over recent years. ISO trending up every year in the big leagues, and one big change is that he's been hammering fastballs. He went from being a below-average hitter against them to hitting them pretty hard. Mike Foltynewicz really leans heavily on his fastball, so that's kind of a nice little marriage between Crawford's developing skills and what Foltynewicz is going to be feeding him tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll throw out one more guy. He homered last night. Jung Ho Kang, $3,300 on DraftKings, and I believe he's $2,900 on. $3,000 on FanDuel. So he's my other option for tournaments. Got to like his power speed combo, and if you're not a believer in James Shields tonight, that's a big ballpark too. So if he's giving up long balls, they come in bunches. So maybe he gets a hold of one. All right, let's move on to the outfield final position here. We'll say it first, Bryce Harper against a guy who struggles against lefties in one of the best ballparks in the league for hitters and for home runs. Bryce Harper may not need to swing all the way through to hit a home run here. I mean, Todd Frazier hit a one-handed home run in this park a couple years ago. So if you don't think Bryce Harper could do it, then you're insane. It's not going to be pretty for, none of the Red starters are really any good right now, but especially Dave Sclafani against lefties. I like Harper. I like his teammate, Denard Span. I like anybody else that hits left-handed that they may pick off the street and put in this lineup today. Just get yourself some left-handed bats from the Nationals today against Dave Sclafani.
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement. I'm actually thinking about Bryce Harper's what he thought was a pop-out that turned into a 30-mile-an-hour wind gust home run at Wrigley Field. Could see something very similar tonight at Great American. I mean, he just has to get the ball in the air and into the outfield, and there's a damn good chance of it finding the seats. I'm going to steal your thunder here, and I'm going to say get some love to Michael Brantley. The guy just puts the ball in play. He's got power, he's got speed, and nobody does a better job of avoiding punch-outs than Michael Brantley. Love him. Love his upside. Like the matchup with Taijuan Walker. At $4,200 on FanDuel, and I believe the same price, $4,400 on DraftKings. Justin Upton against a lefty. He absolutely punishes left-handed pitching. I think he might slip through the cracks a little bit because of the low total at Petco. And the fact that Francisco Liriano isn't exactly a soft lefty, but you still want to get some exposure. You and I both want another left-handed batter from Great American Ballpark. This time we're going to be getting one from the Reds, and that is Jay Bruce, hitting the ball fairly well, hitting a really nice lineup spot. I believe he's hitting cleanup lately with Votto moving up to the 2-hole and Frazier hitting third. Really nice lineup spot, really great ballpark for power. Steven Strasburg not quite right now. So I definitely like him today. How about you give me a couple more names that you like, Justin?
You know I love George Springer against the lefty. He's $4,900 on DraftKings, $39 on FanDuel. He's been batting leadoff recently, so you got to like that. He's got power, speed, upside. The guy kind of does it all. He's like the stronger, bigger version of Jose Altuve on this team, where he steals bases. I mean, he's got almost many stolen bases despite missing time. Hits home runs. He's one of my favorite tournament options tonight. I'm still looking at Ryan Braun despite De La Rosa being tough on righties. I think if Braun gets it going, Braun has really gotten it going. I'm not if he gets it going. If he continues to hit the way he's been hitting, I like him in tournaments. Elsewhere, I already mentioned Denard Span. I like him. You got a couple guys who are really cheap on FanDuel. $3,000 Adam Jones or Hanley Ramirez. Those guys are certainly in play. You'll probably see some of those guys in cash games. I don't know that I trust either one in cash games particularly right now, but they're both great options for your tournaments. And outside of that, if you're going for some cheap options, Alex Guerrero, $2,900 third base or outfield on DraftKings is going to be one of my go-tos, assuming he's in the lineup against John Lackey.
Yeah, I'll cluster everyone together and say the Detroit Tigers outfield looks
Yep.
good tonight, whether that's FanDuel or DraftKings. Price points are fair for all three. Yoenis Cespedes, JD Martinez, and Rajai Davis all are very much in play for me. All hitting the top five in that Tigers lineup, with Davis hitting leadoff, Cespedes hitting cleanup, and JD Martinez hitting fifth. So really like all three of them. One cheap name, not the highest ceiling in the world, a great lineup spot, which means that I love the run and RBI potential. That's David Murphy. If you're really struggling to find some salary relief tonight, you just like, maybe you don't want to save a second base because you really like the top options, or you want to spend for power at third base. Maybe you're using Cole Hamels, so you can't use a cheaper Nolan Arenado. Grab David Murphy, save a little bit of money there. Doesn't have the huge power upside or anything like that, but he can occasionally put a charge into the ball, and he gets to hit behind Michael Brantley. And if we really like Michael Brantley, just kind of take an extension from that and grab the guy hitting behind him as well.
And you're going to love this transition. It wasn't even intentional. The guy that hits behind both of them, Brandon Moss, is one of my favorite tournament plays tonight as well. $3,300 on FanDuel, $42 on DraftKings. Hit a home run off a lefty yesterday, which you don't see very often from Brandon Moss, but he mashes righties. Taijuan Walker, we know, earning his name. He walks more guys than he'd like, so there's ducks on the pond. Maybe he pitches around Michael Brantley and Moss gets one to hit. And you got to like his prospects tonight. He's one of my guys that I love playing tournaments. Paid off big time last year. Finally starting to show that upside that he had last year, now this year. So, under-owned guy in a big park. He's got a ton of power, so it doesn't matter what ballpark it is if he gets a hold of one.
Yeah, I mean, the guy survived in Oakland and didn't just survive but thrived there. So he can hit the ball out of these bigger ballparks, and really like that call, especially if he does move back up into that fifth spot, maybe hits cleanup tonight. We'll see what Tito Francona's got in mind with that lineup, but either way, Moss, wherever he's hitting, if you hit a home run, it doesn't matter where you do it in the lineup. Obviously, you want ducks on the pond, but even if you hit a solo shot, you're paying yourself off.
Absolutely. And with that, that's going to wrap things up for us. Find us on Twitter at DF Cafe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, the one you're watching right now. And check out all of our content for tonight's action every other day on dailyfantasycafe.com. And we'll see you guys next time.